to React Native, and so I will go quickly what I will talk about. So first I will say a few words about me, then I will try to explain you what's React Native, and basically I will start what it's really not, because React Native sometimes it works in a way that people may get confused with other solutions. So then I want to clarify it first, and at least just a bit I want to explain you how this stuff works. So then, yeah, you have kind of a brief, superficial understanding why it works this way, and why several, several things work that way that it works. So why they are so magical. Actually, if you know the background, then it will be quite clear. So because React Native, the approach is pretty unique so far, and there is quite several benefits from the approach that React Native is doing. So then I will just go quickly through this stuff. So then yeah, you will know more why you should maybe take a look at the React Native, and then I will just quickly introduce you how to start with the thing, and we will code a bit. So basically, that's it. So about me, I am a web developer. At the moment, I am just a contractor freelancer, so I don't really work for anyone. Yeah, I'm looking for networking. So if you're a guy just want to know another guy who's coding and maybe share experience and stuff, then just talk to me. Also, sometimes I have a project which I am working usually remotely for another customers of mine, and sometimes there is some more guy needed for a part-time stuff or something. So then we can maybe work together. Yeah, I like to eat and I like play FIFA. So those are another stuff except coding you can do. We can do together. So basically about my JavaScript background, I used to work at NetGuru, and where I was doing Rails as NetGuru does, and at that time I was introducing a backbone to the company. So it was quite a few years ago, and since that time a lot of things changed. So at the moment I'm working on React only with Redux, and all the surrounding technologies. Because I think nothing will really stay for forever. I just just to kind of imagine what I will do in the future, I simply took a look at the Elm. Did you take a look at the Elm maybe, or if you have heard about this one? So it's like a very functional language, which approach is also kind of similar to React at certain point. So it's another interesting thing, you might take a look. So yeah, I introduced myself, I think enough, so then it's time to introduce React Native. And before I start to talk about this thing, I would like to know how many of you have actually heard about React Native? Okay, and how many of you actually played with this one a bit? Cool. So then I think because it was just few of you who played with this one, then I think the level of the presentation is accurate for most of the others, and the one who already played with this one, just correct me in case I will say something you don't agree with. So first of all, what's React Native? What React Native is not. So React Native is not like PhoneGap, it's not a website displayed inside the iOS app. It's not a web view. It's nothing like this. So there is no HTML, there is no CSS and CSS animation, and there is no jQuery to modify DOM, because there is no DOM actually, right? And also React Native approach, it's not really to build one thing which is supposed to be played at the many platforms on iOS and Android. It has slightly different approach. Although it is possible to build one app on React Native and just play it or like launch it on Android and iOS. Actually, you shouldn't do this, and it's not because of the technical issues. It's because of the user experience issues, right? When most of you, I assume, if you're working with React.js, then most likely you're working with website, and you have to imagine that playing with mobile application, native mobile application, brings you a very huge new bunch of different experience and different things you should be aware of. So, for example, like the apps between Android and iOS, they have different experience, and so the apps you're writing with React Native also should be different. So, for example, in Android, a lot of who's Android user? So you guys most likely you used to, if you are looking for another options of, for example, a list, most likely you're tapping and holding an item on the list in order to waiting for an options list. While on iOS app, who's the iPhone user? What about the others? They don't have phones. So most likely on iPhone you are just swiping to the left, to right with the list item in order to see the options. For example, I know if you have a WhatsApp, then you can see this thing, and also on Gmail. Google intentionally doesn't do the same behavior on iPhone app and on Android, because there is a reason of how the platform is perceived by the people who really use the app. So just quickly what React Native homepage says about React Native itself. So React Native homepage says it's a framework for building native apps using React. So this is very important because you have to understand the React.js, the way we are using. It's not really just for website, and it's highlighted pretty nicely from the recent release of the React.js when you have this React DOM, right? So then you have this like abstract React thing, which is playing with a virtual DOM and virtual stuff, and then you have the output, which in case of React.js, you are just usually on the website, you are just the output is the React DOM, right? You are just binding it to render to the DOM. While in React Native, the output is not HTML. In React Native, it's something else. But still, you are using ES6, right? So it's a technology you are familiar with. The code you will take a look, we'll just go through this. It will be very familiar to you. It's absolutely nothing you might be surprised about. And then, as I said, the React Native output, it's different, and it's not executed on the front end, which is also something you should be aware of. But still, because it's a JS, you can use still a lot of like useful stuff. You're supposed to use already if you don't. So it's like Redux, immutable JS, maybe if you use, or if you write tests for JavaScript, you can do basically the same syntax with the same libraries to test your React Native stuff, and it's good. So so far also React Native supports iOS and Android recently started. So the question is, how does it work? Is it magic? What's going on there? Basically, not really. I will not explain deeply how React Native works, but I will just present you a small diagram, a graph, which give you kind of like a mental imagination what's going on under the hood. So basically, you have your text editor or whatever when you are writing the code. I can't have a cursor. Okay, so on the left you have text editor, and when you are writing your React code, this is one thing, the one you get used to, and on the very right thing you have your app, and the app is compiled on the Xcode as usually the native app would be compiled. However, the stuff you have displayed contain the stuff you see from the Xcode is kind of a magic view. I just call it magic view. It's kind of my name for the thing. So basically, you compile once the app on the Xcode, then you have the view, and the view is proxy to the React Native Node app in the middle, right? So basically, what you are doing, you are modifying the code on the editor from the left. The changes are watched by the React Native Node server, and then they are proxy to the Xcode, right? So then, because the proxy, it's going under the hood, then you don't have to recompile the app every code change, which is pretty amazing for people who get used to work with regular native app, where you have to recompile app every time you are doing something. Here you don't have to do this, so it's really clean feature, I would say. And because this diagram is kind of like how do I understand this stuff, so that if you want to know it deeply what's going on there, I recommend you to go through different resources, maybe more high level. So just to not talk too long, I will just go quickly through the stuff why React Native is nice. So maybe I will motivate you to take a look closer to the stuff. So yes, you are learning React and JavaScript once, and it lets you with React Native, it lets you work with iOS and Android. So with React.js, you're working with website, then with React Native, you're working with iOS and Android. And it's basically one knowledge which lets you work on 3 different platforms. And this is pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing for you because you can be very elastic and switching teams without a lot of troubles. And also it's cool for your boss because the boss can have only one team of the clever people, and then he can move the human resources between the teams as he needs to have them. And also another thing, if you will design a React Native app, the user interface when you will design it with React Native, you'll just use the stuff you already know. You will use a CSS, kind of subset of CSS. So you won't use everything the CSS gives you at the moment in the browser, but it's kind of just a subset. But most of the stuff you already find it, and you will just know what the stuff is doing. And the React Native UI, the layout is modeled with Flexbox. So if you are not using Flexbox at the moment yet on the daily basis, you definitely have to, because display block and float. It's not the way we are doing stuff now. So take a look at the Flexbox if you don't know it yet. If you do, then you are also one step further with learning React Native. Another thing which is different from absolutely is different when you are doing stuff on mobile devices and you are stuff on the web browser. The experience is much different, and it's really when you start to code and you starts to playing with the problems you have on mobile, the different experience you have to handle on mobile, then you really can imagine that the API that the browser is doing is not really well thought to be run on a touchable device. And with React Native, it's really done well. So you can really feel that you have an API which allows you to do a very truly, a very good experience on mobile, right, on native apps. So although, as I mentioned before, you shouldn't really write one app which is for Android and iOS, still most of the code can be shared between the 2 platforms. So like if you have a list of stuff, if you have some elements, just UI elements, the very static elements, then you can easily share them, and it will be both shared and kind of markup, data, and and styling, which is cool. The thing I mentioned before, you don't have to recompile up every code change. This one is cool. And another thing I also mentioned before about the huge advantage is you can reuse the stuff from NPM you most likely use so far. And also, if you are writing, or if you have already a native app, or if you are writing a new app, React Native doesn't force you to write entire app with React Native itself. So you can have your iOS app, and if you want to try React Native with one simple view, one subcomponent or something, you can just embed it there, and it's fine already, So then you don't really have to risk too much in order to start with React Native. You can add it to as one view, take a look, do you like it? If you do, then just go forward. If not, just remove it, and you won't waste much time. And another sweet things we should like is that we still have access to Chrome debugger, which if you think it's like you're writing a native app and you have access to Chrome debugger, it's like, what the fuck, how they did it. It's still possible there, and it's very well done, and it works. So it's a brilliant thing. And in case you will do an errors, and you will, as we all do, then the error descriptions are super well done in React Native, which is a good stuff, obviously. So then I think it's enough to talk about React Native itself. It's time to really start the stuff. So the good thing about React Native is that if you know React, you're basically done. You can almost start with React Native, so it's not a problem itself. So because React Native doesn't work with DOM, then you should just know that there is several elements several components which are different in React Native, obviously, but there are things which are very corresponding. So once you know how the div element works, you can basically use view in the same way. So instead of div in React Native, use just view component. Instead of span, use text. Instead of image, use image component. EMG is use image component. These are the things you have to know, basically. And CSS, although it's limited, like the styling of the UI in React Native, it's a CSS, but it's limited. So check out the documentation. If something doesn't work, most likely it's not supported, but also we will be alerted pretty much well on the console log on Chrome debugger. So you will know it up front that something went wrong. And yeah, the flag book is something you have to know before you start with React Native. So if you have a Mac, you are already fine. If you don't, then you should read a bit how to launch it on different platforms. I'm not really, I don't really know much how to do this stuff on the different platforms. I'm sure there is something. If you have Mac, just install Xcode, Node.js. Most likely you already have both, and then install React Native CLI, and that's it. You can init an app with React Native init, and we can code. So this is what we are going to do now. So basically, let me switch to something we could do. So. Sorry, I don't like to type when people look at my hand, so I will just init a simple app for now. Okay, so I don't know why we're simply the simple initialization takes a while, so we can just wait 20-30 seconds. If it won't work, then I have already initialized something like I think it's meetup something. Oh yeah, I have meetup demo, which is exactly the same, just without JS, but just to show you that I really do this from scratch. Let's wait maybe the 20 seconds if you don't mind. Yes. So also, if you have questions in the meantime when I'm talking, tell me, and if I'm talking too fast, also tell me.
Okay, so one question in the meantime. You've said that not all CSS properties are supported.
Yes.
And also you've mentioned that you're going to get warnings in the console.
Yes.
So I'm understanding this correctly. For example, I use unsupported CSS property, and the console is going to actually tell me, right?
Yes. The Chrome debugger console, right? We'll just open. Cool. So we'll just open Chrome debugger what we are developing, and the React Native stuff will open Chrome debugger's console, and we can see output there. So basically, let me go there or. Okay, let's see what's there. So maybe I should think of my personal things, so maybe like this. Okay, so what do we have inside the freshly initialized project? We have an Android folder, we have an iOS folder, we have no modules. No modules obviously contain all the modules we have from NPM, and iOS it's the plain, simply generated project for Xcode, and we have an Android project for now. And then there are three regular files, which is index.ios.js, which is the initial file for iOS platform, and the index Android.js, right? And then the package JS, just npm thing. So we will just focus on two things at the moment, because I will code it just for iPhone, just for now. We will just focus on index iOS.js and iOS. So I will just open the project for now in Xcode. So okay, so we have it open now, and And then so here I will compile the application. It's the right part from the diagram I show you, but there is also needed to be in it to be started the middle part, the node server. If I just click a play button, it will run the node server in the background. But just to show you whether actually we are really doing something and we are launching it by ourselves, I will just start it by myself. So it's a, I think, React Native start, I believe. Yes. So here I started I don't know how it's called, the node server of React Native. And if I click play, or maybe I should, okay, that's it. I will just play, so I will compile now the application. So simulator should be open and we should see some stuff, some translating in the background, right? The first load takes a bit, I don't know, but it's just really the first load. So we have this one, and we have a Retina iPhone 6 Plus, which is huge, and we can't see anything. So let's maybe, first of all, I can close it. And I will switch to iPhone 5, maybe, or 5S. I will play it again, and I will scale it. So then, because my demo, the code I have prepared, and I was thinking about, I think it was done on iPhone 5S. So because I didn't think much about the layout, so just to keep it simple, I will just reuse the same device I was simulating at home. And then I can scale it to 50%, so then we can really see. So, cool. We have the app running. We have the app loaded, and then if I just come out there, you see loaded from, and there is a port of the local host. So you can be, so now we can know that the stuff here, it's loaded from the node server that it's running on the port, I don't know, 80, 81, doesn't really matter. So let's edit the stuff a bit. So I will just open an iOS, index iOS. So we will go quickly through this thing. It's a regular, it's already from this perspective, you can say it looks pretty much like React, right? You have a class, you have view tags and stuff, and you have some styles. And in the end, just to register the main component, you have the React Native app registry, register component method, and we can just pass, it's just generated, so you can just see that it starts here, but can everyone see the code? Oh, it's too small. Yes, cool. So basically that's it, and let's see. We have this, and we have similar. So I have compiled once. I have running iPhone. You can also imagine it's a running iPhone. I have the code here. I will just delete one word, and I just press Command R, and it's like it's done. So you can see there is nothing like recompilation. All the translation was done in the background here on the left side, so you can see there are some translations. We don't have to understand it too much, we just have to know that there is something done in the node stuff. So basically, we can start to code now. I am more ES6 guy, so let me quickly go through the code and make it ES6 more. So I'll just get rid of this thing for React, from React Native. Oops. From React Native, just start with the same. Cool. So then we don't have this one, and then this is also more 6. And what else is this right? So we translated the regularly generated code to the more ES6 now, and now we can start to code something more cool. I will just reuse if you don't mind, I will use your example of fetching repository's name or something from GitHub because it's just open API for search, so it's just very simple. I have a cheat sheet in case I would go into trouble, but I will try to make it really light coding. So at first, let me clear what we have so far. So I will get rid of all the styles. I don't need them. I will just write myself something if I need. Do the sponsor cool star. I don't need it, at least for now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to write a simple app, and you can unload. You will just when you launch the app, you will just fetch some search results from GitHub, right? So what I'm going to do, or what I'm planning to do, I'm planning to go to what's the API stage. Okay, I'm going to fetch this resource, right? So I will search for a repository with a word Tetris, and there is a lot of results. I will just grab the items and trying to render something from this thing, right? So just to show you it's not a magic. So what I'm going to need, I am going to need some loading state. So in the beginning, it's gonna be because when I enter the app, the loading will start immediately, and yeah. Okay, doesn't matter. So let's imagine in the beginning I would just have to load stuff. So let's say that state loading true, it's in the beginning, right? Loading true, data. So because I won't have any data, I won't have a right to, I won't have any data to display in the beginning data. It's nothing, and maybe I don't know what else. Maybe just in case we'll have error. Hopefully it will be no, right? Just to have the state clarified, and then I will just on the beginning of the life cycle, I will just try to fetch stuff. So then I will go to component mount, and yeah, when I open an application, obviously I should be here. So let's just make sure I didn't do anything wrong yet. I want to show you the Chrome debugger on the React Native. So I just press, I think, Command D. Oh, yeah. Command D, it opens the React Native, let's say, a help list, and I will just do a debug in Chrome. I can, but I don't know why I can't. Come on. Why the fuck? If I wouldn't be able to run the Chrome debugger, because it really brings a lot of good experience for developers. So an idea.
Maybe it's open to Chrome already.
Yeah, it's running Chrome. Oh,
That's strange.
yeah. month. I don't remember what I did at that time.
And you know some Xcode? Maybe because it's scale?
Oh, maybe. Let's try the scale. No, the extra doesn't say anything. Okay, and then we can do the third level of development, which is the Stack Overflow development, and we'll get the thing solved soon. No, it looks fine. And let me try to. Maybe not. Yeah, it's a long way.
Yeah, you're blocking it basically the barrier.
So let's do it. I can add something to it at least. Rocket science, I know. Cool. So we are here, and then I will try to do. Sorry for the live project too. So come on. Console here, I will just command R and I am here, right? So okay, it just works as a regular React. So let's try to fetch stuff, right? So fetch. We can use the regular. No, it's C6, no? Or I don't know. Is it?
From it, yeah.
From? Okay, so we can use it also in React Native, although it's not, the code is not running in the Chrome. We have fetch there. So let's use the same query for now. And then it's promise, so then we have then. And so fetch, the first promise, it will just return you an object where you have all the stuff. So you have like a status, you have more things, so we will just have to process it slightly. So the first response. Sorry, let me just, I don't want to make too much. Okay, no. So at the moment we have in a promise chain, we have the text, the response text, which is just a string of this old JSON. So then I will also need to do I have to parse it. So then
Jason.
alright.
But yeah,
I will just go with my stuff, so then we won't stuck on the small things if I didn't test it so far. So then yeah, body string. I will check the just JSON. I just was playing with stuff. So then the third, then we should have some data here most likely, and we can have stuff between there. So if we are lucky, I will just reload thing. Before we do this, don't forget to run stuff. Okay, so if we are lucky, some data. So we have the stuff here, right? We have the JSON with the fetched content. and we have the all stuff. We have items, and each item, as you can see here, each item has owner. So I will just render owners, right? I will just render the owners of the profiles because there is a nice login, pretty simple, and there is one image. So I'm just going to do a simple stuff. So I'm just going to map the response in order to get owners only, right? So good. Let data will be JSON data dot items map item equal right. So then we can do yes. So after I have the data prepared, I will just assign it to the state, so then I can basically render it, right? So then this is state, and because I'm not using, I don't want to mutate state, and I'm not using mutable.js or anything like this. I will just kind of extend the previous state with the new one and return the final version, which is I will just do this with object assign. If you didn't play with object assign or didn't use it in ES6, it's just like the jQuery extend method, right? So this state. So basically, whatever I will write here will override the things of this one, and then this thing will override this one, right? So then, as a final output, will be the clear new object assigned to set state, whereas as it's supposed to be for the React, right? So then we are not loading anymore, so we can do a loading false here, and we have data, which is just data, and we don't have errors, so we don't have to care about errors, and I think we are fine. Maybe just to be very precise, we can catch error in case something wrong with the request, the I don't know, network fails or something. We should just do something about it as well. So then, in case it fails, loading will be fails. I won't modify and data. Error will be error. Is that clear, everything? If something is just not clear or something, then just let me know. And I don't need this one. So I think it should be fine so far. So just to make sure nothing is broken, just let me reload thing, and I can go forward here. Cool. Reload. Nothing is broken. I don't have any red message so far. So far good. So then we're supposed to have the stuff working already, the fetching working. So then let's display things, right? So then I will just render stuff. So what do I want to do? First, I would like to know the loading thing. I will deconstruct it. Let loading data error. Oops. This stuff. Right, and let's mark direct. Okay, cool. So then we have a locally available loading data and error, right? So we can simply say if there is loading, then if there is loading, then display text loading. Right, and for now we can get rid of this one. Loading and no loading. Okay, so until the stuff was fetched, there was a loading message. The same thing we can do for error. error with the exception that we are not saying it's error, we'll say what the error message contains. Oh, it should not appear. Cool. So we have the stuff. So far we won't see an error, and hopefully we'll not see till the end. And yeah, let me look through the data we have. So how is I should map it, no? Probably. Yeah, map, sure. So so because of this, the thing that we have mapped all the data, it was items, and we just grabbed from each item just owner. So I can say that if I iterate through map array, the object I'm getting in each map iteration, it's a user, right? So it's going to be user, the owner basically. I think I can. So then I can iterate, and we will just return the component which represent particular user. And because we are mapping all the objects, and each user will be represented individually. So just we can return a view which is corresponding to the div of the regular React.js thing, and we can do. Oh, one thing, and it's worth to mention. So basically, if you have a React, there is no an issue to do a div and then I don't know my text, right? You can do this, and in case that my text is a string. However, for React Native, you can't do this. If you want to display a text, a string, it has to be inside the text component. This is one thing it's worth to mention. So we have text, and the user should have a login. And I think it should be fine. So I'm loading, and I have list of users. Cool, so far cool. And I want to also have the avatar, so at least there is an image in there. So as I said in my presentation, if you may remember, there is the corresponding to the EMG from the HTML, there is corresponding image component, correct? So then we will just require this. We have, it's also available under the React object. So we have the image already here, and we can do image, oops, and so as you can see, it's slightly different syntax. So it's not like in a pure HTML, right? It's slightly different. The component is slightly different syntax. So there is image, and there is a source, and the source take an object of argument. So don't really do this one by one as you would do in HTML, but it's pretty the same, and you can find it pretty easily what to do with stuff. So then let's do the same as they said. So we have to define a source property with object where URI attribute takes the URL, right, to the image. So let's do this thing, and I think it's good. We can do this. So then we can do source and URI, and the URI is what? Avatar URL. Cool. Yeah. So it's this one. So we want to have a user.avatar URL. Okay. And now we have to style things a bit. I believe at the moment it won't look too well without styling, but let me see. So yeah, it's because the image by default doesn't have any height and width, and I think in certain layout things on a web browser and HTML works different than on the React Native. So these are just things you have to play with and see and try it yourself. For now, I just simplify it and I will just quickly write some stuff to have things displayed. So we have to style it, a bit, and I know. What was the value that we looked well? Okay, 50 by 50. 50, height 50. We already should see something. And we do. Okay, so almost good. And I have the scroll, and this is a pity that I have the scroll because I can't show you the problem we have. So maybe 50. Okay, so now we have entire iPhone visible or entire iPhone simulator visible, and we have a lot of resources, and we can see there is more than the height of the phone. And we want to scroll, and we can't. And this is the first thing, and you will have a lot of those things when you have to mentally change the way you are thinking. It's not the web browser. It's not endless page. It's limited to the viewport of the iPhone. So then you have to, if you want to have things scrollable as the website, you have to declare it that it's gonna be scrollable. So then instead of view, which is just limited element, we have to have the scroll element. So React Native does this thing or provide the component for scrollable content by default. So I think scrollable or scroll view. Scroll view. And yeah, we have all the content make a scrollable, right? I think it's fine for now. And we just reload, we are loading things, we have the list, and the list is scrollable. So I think basically, for the beginning, just to have an introduction to the React Native, what we did, we launched the application. We were doing some I/O stuff, input/output, because we are fetching stuff. We have some interaction because we are scrolling. We are displaying some rich content, image or strings, not so rich, but images at least. And yeah, I think this is a good beginning. I didn't do any input field and stuff. I don't want to make it too long and too complex, and I don't want to make you bored so much. So I think this is a good thing to start, and the rest you should do probably by yourself. And yeah, so this was the stuff I wanted to present you about React Native. Any feedback would be very welcome. So just mail me, and if you want to just contact me, then as well, just Thanks.